Greetings, friends, and welcome to this edition of Tales from the Tabletop. Let's begin. Our first story comes from Cryptid Corvid 13. Cryptid writes, I play a very low intelligence wild magic goblin character named Whatchamacallit. What for short. There are many Abbott and Costello routines that spring up organically with this character. What is your name, Goblin?
Yes, that's correct.
What is correct?
Yes.
What?
Affirmative.
Speak your name.
What?
The name you are known by.
What is what's name?
That is what I am asking you.
And that is what is simply telling you.
I think my favorite line that I have ever uttered while playing this creature has been,
What will be frank with you? And Frank thinks that we should leave.
I'm not gonna lie, folks, I am a sucker for an Abbott and Costello routine. I had the Who's on First thing memorized as a 9-year-old boy. Gracious, there was no hope for me when I got to school. Our next story is from Anonymous. Anonymous writes, while the rest of the party was investigating a tavern, our giant character had to stay outside. When things got rough, he charged in, knocking down the great oak door. He had trapped the thug barring our escape underneath the collapsed door. With the help of our giant, the party quickly managed to take control of things when I said, hey, the guy underneath you is starting to stir. The giant's player looked at me with an evil grin and said with a low, slow, dumb, grumbling voice,
Can I jump on the door, please?
That was 20 years ago, but I still remember that face, and I still remember that voice. Needless to say, yeah, he pulped the poor guy. The next story is also from Anonymous, and this Anonymous writes, so in the campaign I'm in, we're in the middle of taking down a military camp. After we killed several of the leaders by, I kid you not, weekend at Bernie's-ing our way through the camp, we had not gotten caught until one of the big bad evil guys showed up to restore order. I played a warlock, and it was a running gag in our campaign that I abuse the hell out of the fireball spell. Earlier on this session, the DM made a joke about combining spell slots for stronger spells, and that planted a seed in my mind to make a super fireball. So I see the big bad standing there, minding his own business, and I get an idea. So I say to the DM, can I stack all of my spell slots to make a giant fireball? He dodged the question a bit until I declared the rule of cool. He said, if you can roll a 20, sure. I rolled that 20. And what did the big bad roll as his saving throw? A natural 1. As a result, I cast the super happy fireball of fire. And there was nothing left of the big bad, just a pile of charred bones, 2 boots standing up with smoke billowing from them, and a camp reduced to naught but ash. Thing is, he wasn't supposed to die yet. We needed him for the plot, and me killing him derailed the entire campaign, all for a joke. Some people are going to hear this story and think, oh man, that player is a jerk. He derailed the whole campaign just for a joke. And other people are going to hear this story and be like, that DM is an idiot. He allowed a player to derail the entire campaign? And I respectfully disagree with both of those sides. I think that both the player and the DM did exactly what they were supposed to do. The player pushed the boundaries of the world to see what he could do and be creative, and most importantly, have as much fun as possible at the table. The DM did his job by giving just the tiniest window. You know what, player? Rule of cool is sacrosanct. So you get it, but just the slimmest margin. If you can make a 1 out of 20 roll, I will take the responsibility and rewrite this derailed campaign. It's neither of their fault that the player made the role he did and the DM made the role that he did. But daggone, it's a lot of fun for all of us. Kudos, friends. Kudos. This next story comes from an old-timer named Sven. How much of an old-timer, you ask? Listen to this. I have been playing D&D and its predecessor, Chainmail, since the early 70s. That's how old an old-timer. I helped playtest the original 3 versions of RuneQuest and the current basic roleplay. It has given me many funny moments over the years. Here is one of my favorites that happened when I was on vacation visiting with some friends and was an impromptu player in a game already in progress. The rules were a custom system written by a friend of mine that takes place in a post-apocalyptic future that includes magic and all sorts of strange technologies. Since it was a one-shot visit, the DM had me play one of the NPCs that had no special skills or powers, other than I flew the dirigible, and I was a very stealthy thief. He told me I could do whatever I could think up, as long as it didn't involve magic or superpowers. Oh, that's fine, I said. Unfortunately, he forgot that I learned quite a bit about explosives, ambushes, and improvised devices of mayhem during my time in Vietnam. I asked permission of the DM while my character was in town to make some purchases. He allowed me to do so, and my character purchased string, a roll of electrical tape, a 6-pack of Coca-Cola, 4 boxes of condoms, and 6 bottles of blank. I'm not telling what the final element was, because it is a common household item, and I'm not trying to rewrite the anarchist cookbook here. My friends were now getting suspicious because of the odd nature of the items. But they were curious because they knew it would be fun. The object of this adventure was to invade a heavily occupied enemy military base and steal some device and get back out again. We also aimed to destroy the base so that the enemy aircraft wouldn't be able to stop the liberators attempting to free some prisoners elsewhere. As we sneaked into the area, 4 heavily fortified open bunkers guarded the small valley. Each bunker had 1 or 2 magic users or a power user, plus a dozen soldiers with snipers, machine guns, and rockets. Heavy odds, thought the party, and they were puzzled about how to defeat these bunkers so that they could attack the main base without getting slaughtered. I said, "Give me a couple of hours and leave it to me." I described sneaking up to each bunker, made my rolls, I did have a high stealth score, and in each one's ammo supply, I taped an open bottle of blank to a rocket. Using the string over a bottle, I filled a condom with Coca-Cola and nested several condoms over the inner one to serve as a timing device. The Coke will slowly dissolve the condoms and drop into the bottle and react explosively, creating a firebomb. I also did this to the main base's armory and shimmied back to the party. All of a sudden, each bunker and the main armory blew up and burst into flames, killing the occupants, including the supervillains. The rest of the party strolled into the main base and completed the mission, but my NPC character earned 90% of the XP in that adventure instead of the player characters. Great story, OP. Good on you, and thank you for your service. Our next story comes from Red Hood 101101, and I did not take the time to look up what that meant in binary, but if any folks out there feel like doing a quick translate, if you could let me know in the comments, I'd be much obliged. Red Hood is answering the question, does anyone have stories of a game they almost joined until they saw the biggest red flag and noped out of there? Red Hood writes, for me, it was my college dorm. There was this guy who was a stereotypical that guy. never showered, never washed his hands, and the RA had to force him to throw out his trash. I was hanging out with friends in the common area talking about D&D, and he came over and started talking about how he loved D&D and that he has this super epic campaign he's been building for like 5 years, but he can't find people to play for some reason. He starts off with,
I designed the game for 3.5. You know, real D&D. But, like, I couldn't find anyone to play in it, so I converted it for Pathfinder. But now, everyone wants to play this 5e thing, which isn't real D&D. So, I changed it over again. He followed that up with, you don't have to min-max your characters, but if you don't, you'll die in like the first 15 minutes, because the first encounter is against a bunch of CR26 creatures, and they deal damage and exhaustion, and he continues. He continues describing in great and excruciating detail what sounds like the most BS Tomb of Horrors level encounters I have ever heard. Needless to say, my friend and I were suddenly busy that week. Later, he was encouraged to move off campus when I told the RA that he had been trying to spy on me through my door. Very first comment. Well, that sounds like a typical that guy, I guess. Wait, hold on. Spy through the door? Wait a damn minute! My reaction as well. OP gets in here. It was so creepy. I was talking with a friend about a D&D character, and he started yelling through the door, You should actually play this race for this bonus, and he went on. It was so creepy. He made me feel so unsafe. No kidding, OP. Gracious. I'm getting creeped out just reading this stuff, OP. Daggone. I'm sorry that stuff happened. I'm sorry that stuff happened to you, and I just hate that there's so much of that guy in the world. Also, as a brief aside, jeers I say to anyone who goes around saying, that's not real D&D. I mean, it's just a huge red flag, big indicator this is not the kind of person you want at your table. And I should know because I 100% have said that. When I saw people playing 4th edition, they pulled out their minis, they have their battle map, they're measuring things and wargaming out their situation. That's not real D&D. And I was a douchebag. That's a douchebag thing for me to say. Crapping on somebody else's fun time, never a good idea. Doesn't make you cool. Shut your mouth. Allow people to suspect that you're a douchebag. Don't open your mouth and confirm it beyond all doubt. This next story is our last story. It's the one I've been illustrating the whole time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's been worth the wait. Let's strap in. This story comes from Friggy Chiggy Man 12. Cool name. I was playing a fighter Goliath that specialized in wrestling. I had a backstory for a duck mask that he was wearing. Me and my party were going through either some sewers or dark caves to fight demons or spiders. The party only had one light source, and it went out. So my cleric decided to use the cast light spell. He was deciding on what to cast light upon until I recommended casting it on my duck mask. We were conversing about what the light can be. He was deciding on what to cast light upon until I recommended casting it on my duck mask. We were conversing about what the light would be. We decided it would be funny and somewhat intimidating for a 7-foot-tall, crazy muscular Goliath with a flaming duck mask to just be walking around in this world. When the spell was cast, the DM ruled that my entire head was on fire, but did not burn, so long as the mask stayed on. Not only was it great for providing light, it also added to my character's story to make him even more badass. I had gone maybe more than halfway through the campaign with that burning mask, fighting the undead, some snake bandits, and meat demons. Meat demons, band name, I call it. Meat demons! I was made especially more intimidating when I was grabbing enemies and smacking them against each other or ripping them apart like wet paper towels. It played in significantly once the big bad had been defeated and we all went our separate ways. The DM wanted us to make a decision on what our characters would do that would then lead on to the next campaign. I ended up being called back to my village to fight and become the chief if I won. I did win, and I trained the village's next fighters with everything I had learned on my journey, and I announced when I give up my chief title, my successor will have the option to beat me to death in single combat. Of course, with old age, I did die, but the DM gave me the option to save something that can appear in the next campaign, and I decided to save the duck mask. He then played it off. As the tribe had such great pride in me, they saved my mask and kept it on display in the village, burning brightly forever. And that is the end of this one. Gotta say, the prospect of super heavy metal Goliath character being huge and intimidating and wearing a duck mask on fire, such a cool idea, couldn't help myself, had to draw this one. Although I did make the change to a duck helmet instead of a duck mask because I thought helmet would look cooler. This image actually ended up being something of a challenge. In keeping with my study as a fantasy illustrator, I channeled some more Fred Zeta, and if you do a Google image search, you could probably find the original Frank Frazetta painting that I pilfered for the composition and for the pose and whatnot. But something that I did have to change was the background. I wasn't quite sure how to deal with it. Because I had kind of made a mistake. I made the foreground not too dark and cool colors instead of warm colors. And cool colors are very good for going in the background, and warm colors pop up front. And so I kind of messed up and did the opposite. And so when it came time to draw out the background, I wasn't quite sure what to do. Because to do it with regular old pen and inks would mesh it closer to our subject in the middle ground here, and sort of flatten the whole thing. So I did something that I haven't seen anybody else on the internet do, and I did some searching. I ended up treating my marker inks as watercolor, and instead of water, using alcohol, because, of course, alcohol markers. So squirt a little bit of ink into one of those little cups that they sell at grocery stores for beer pong, throw down some 90% rubbing alcohol, and start treating it like watercolors. And I had no idea how it was going to turn out, but it turned out all right. And because the watercolors essentially are made of the exact same stuff as the markers and ink, and all ended up meshing together very nicely, and I was able to still choose my colors. For those of you who don't know, I am colorblind, and I have my markers arranged in such a way that I could say, yes, warm colors, cool colors, and neutrals and flesh tones in the middle. So that's how I make my color compositions. Last but not least, I've got a question for you. Looking at this character, if you were to remove D&D from the equation and just see the character, I'm wondering, does this look like the sort of guy that Scrooge and the nephews would come across in DuckTales, or does this look like a kind of guy that Darkwing would have to square off with? I am just dying to know your thoughts. Please, oh please, comment at the bottom. I'd love to hear what you've got. If you like the original art for yourself, it'll be on my website at coffeeandhate.biz. Click store at the top. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, thank you for listening, and may your dice roll high and never be cursed.